Hello, thank you all for coming. I'd gotten a call from Sam, who I'd worked with on a couple of other projects, and he was wanting to tell me about a new endeavor he had started. I changed my job, now I'm working for Change for Travel. We've got this new solution, I think you really like it. Well, as I heard that, I realized that it would be a great topic to share with the HEDNA community. So that's kind of how it started. Little did I know I was volunteering for something. So, but that also kind of goes to what I've seen today, the collaboration, everybody's participation. It's great. It's kind of the whole value of HEDNA. So thank you again for coming. So, Pablo.
Hi, everybody. I'm Pablo, co-founder and the CTO of Change for Travel. Thanks for having me, Sean.
Sure. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Change for Travel and what you guys are working on with this Camino Network?
Yes. So who has heard about Change for Travel already? Wonderful. A few of you. So we are actually a startup, and we only were founded in 21. So December 21, we founded the company in Switzerland. We are in the meantime, we are 50 team members worldwide, really decentralized. So actually we have stuff at basically all continents, ranging from South America to basically everything, including Australia. We have a bunch of advisors helping us as well, basically connecting us to travel companies, interested parties who want to learn more about Camino. Because Camino is our product, and that's actually the blockchain we've built. It's the first blockchain for the travel industry. And now some of you may ask, why blockchain? Why does the travel industry need a blockchain? And I'm going to quickly pull up some slides to guide you through our thought process. So basically, we all know in the past few days, I was able to attend a few sessions here. It was very interesting, actually, to hear about the pain points. There was a lot of discussion about legacy systems and so on. I've been working all my life in the travel industry. So, and the basic question was like, can't we do better? So is there not a technology out there that can support the travel industry really to get to the next level? So there was this Kuwadi's question that we asked ourselves. And we set out to look at different technologies, and we found then actually an answer. It's not a silver bullet, but it solves a lot of topics we were talking the past 2 days in the name of blockchain. So you may have heard about Web3, and Web3 and blockchain goes a little bit hand in hand. For us, the definition of Web3, if you look at the different data sources, it's quite fuzzy, but to explain it very, very simple, Web3 is about data ownage, so you own assets. That's what differentiates it from Web 1 and Web 2. Web 1 was actually early stage internet, you could read web pages. Web 2 was social media interaction, you could contribute as well. And Web 3 is now about the owning part. So what does this mean? So digital assets, a lot of people think digital assets equals crypto, it's not. It's about actually, I can own something, this could be an NFT, this could be a booking, and I can transfer that booking to somebody else. And that's just as an example itself.
Yeah. When blockchain first came out, there was all the buzz, and I know we were asked to look at it, like I'm sure many hotel suppliers were asked to look at it. When we looked at it, we found it very expensive. We were afraid it was going to add an amount of latency. It was very complicated, and we couldn't justify the cost. Right? And so how are you guys solving for that? What's different about it now?
So on the one hand side, the technology has evolved drastically. I mean, I personally got in touch with blockchain through my former job. I was head of IT of Autoplan Group, the largest tour operator in Switzerland. And the fun part of that job was always that I was able to look at new technologies to basically rate them, is this friend or is it foe? And blockchain came up with Winding Tree, so I invited those guys over, and for us it was like, we don't understand it. And why is this superior than what we have today in our world of APIs? And also looking at the cost, looking at the speed of the blockchain itself. So it was actually for us a no-go, but it was interesting. And technology has evolved drastically. I mean, we saw that as well in the discussions earlier. Today, technology is actually accelerating to a pace where it's growing exponentially. And we humans being grow only linear, so that already creates some problems there. But the technology today we are using, I mean, 7 years back, blockchains could handle like 1 transaction, 3 transactions per second. Now we can handle thousands of transactions per second, which are no problem. But still, I mean, coming back to that question, why do we need an own blockchain for the travel industry? Cost was actually one of the main denominator where we said, okay, we need an own blockchain. Because most of the blockchains work like the more traffic you have on the blockchain, the more expensive gets a transaction. And this in a seasonal industry like the travel industry would not work out of the way. And also most of the blockchains are not for the travel industry because they are not owned by travel industry members. So there are other entities setting the price. And what differentiates Camino from other blockchains as well is actually that the owners of the blockchain are all members of the travel industry. So in a decentralized world, you talk about validators. Validators are companies that partner up with Camino, which provide hardware. So those are the nodes. They validate transactions in the network, and they set actually the price of the transaction. The current price of the transaction is 1 cent. This includes transaction on blockchain, including payment.
So what you're describing is a network or a network platform. Mm-hmm. And so when I think of a platform, I automatically just go straight to APIs.
Yes.
How have you guys standardized, or what standards are you using, and how do you interact or integrate with the Camino network?
Yeah. So APIs is a huge topic. I mean, in our industry, we have tons of different APIs, not only looking at the hospitality sector, but actually in all the other travel verticals as well. And what we plan to do is actually to connect the blockchain to those different kind of APIs, external APIs. I will show you later a screen where I can actually elaborate a little bit on that. But talking about Web3 today, I mean, a lot of people still see a lot of hurdles, apart from payment or cost or slowness. I mean, it's also the usability itself of Web3 is not there where it should be. I mean, Jack Dorsey, the founder of Twitter, minted the terminus that we actually need Web5. We need the usability of Web2 and the technical capabilities of Web3, so that equals Web5. And I think the travel industry can really, really be a driver there. If you look at the global adoption rate, and this is comparing actually internet growth over time, and where today Web1, Web2, Web3, and as you can see, a lot of company logos popped up. So Web1 started roughly at the end of the 90s. Web2 in the beginning of 2000 with social media, they had this rise, with the app had a huge boost, and Web3 started like 10 years ago, most of that based on blockchain technology. The usage of worldwide, those are the little blue bars you see there, depending on the data source, it's between 200 to 300 millions concurrent million users worldwide. So it's tiny compared to the internet usage. But if you compare the data, it's actually quite interesting. It almost matches with the early days of the internet. The second message I usually give to the audience when I show this slide is actually, okay, you see all those brand names, all those companies that started then, they invested very, very early in internet technology at that point in time, and 25 years later, they are actually dominant players. So we are also thinking that companies should have a closer look at Web3 technology, because now most probably the next Booking.coms, the next eBays, the next Amazons are going to be created. So that's why it's important. The other message is, I mean, a lot of people looking at this growth, it's like, oh, I still have 20 years time till we reach today. Thanks. Problem is, again, today everybody is connected. We have 6 billion connected devices, which was not the case at the end of the 90s. So if this really comes, if it really accelerates, it will be faster than the internet adoption.
So I see Bitcoin, and they were kind of the catalysts to mainstream blockchain. Have they moved to Web3, or are they still?
Bitcoin?
Yes.
Yes, I mean, that's the first actually real-life application we saw on Web3 and blockchain, so to say, where really a lot of users interacted out of different reasons. It's speculative. Some didn't trust the banks or central entities, and that's how the whole Web3 movement started. If you look at the adoption of brands today, I mean, there are tons of different brands actually using Web3 on a daily basis. Last time we counted, it was like 65 different industries already doing something with blockchain in Web3 without the customer usually noticing it. Who was on the way here in a Starbucks? Hands up. Starbucks? Nobody was in a Starbucks? Good, we are in Italy, good coffee. So there are a few guys who outed themselves. So do you use the Odyssey program of Starbucks? For instance, collect points. That's blockchain behind that. User doesn't know that. FIFA is using blockchain, for instance, for gamifications of stuff. Adidas just announced today that they're going to use Starbucks points as well for their own store. So companies are using blockchain as well to exchange loyalty programs and miles and stuff like that. So a lot of companies also, especially in the luxury brands, are using now more and more blockchain technology as well to prove the authenticity, to use that. I mean, we have here an example with Nike. Does anybody know how much money Nike made last year with NFTs? $185 million. It's an add-on on their additional revenue. So we are seeing more and more actually adoption of blockchain technology in any use cases across different kinds of media. When it comes to travel, I mean, we are definitely not the first company thinking blockchain and travel in the same sentence, but we are the first one building a blockchain for the travel industry. All these companies, and there are a few missing actually, only this week, Trip.com, we also have colleagues from Trip.com here at the conference, announced their Trekkies NFTs. So it's a loyalty program. The more bookings you generate, the more collectibles you get, the more benefits you have as a traveler. Those of you who have traveled with Singapore Airlines, their KrisFlyer program, complete on blockchain since 2018. So blockchain doesn't necessarily mean that the customer does notice something, but they are elaborating and using that as benefits.
Yeah, I think that's some use cases that not all of us think about. I think when we were looking at it as distribution professionals, we were looking at it more as how can I get visibility into the forward distribution? Where has my product gone? How many hands does it touch before the end user actually consumes that? So I can see how it would apply to all these loyalty programs, managing a currency and that ledger technology. It makes sense. Are there other use cases that?
Yes, I can show you a few ones later on as well. And I mean, but it's blockchain can also be used not only to solve some of these problems we have today or to ameliorate that. For instance, personalization. Customers will be running around with wallets. So that's a fact. I mean, Vodafone expects that by 2030, there will be like 4.5 billion digital wallets, not talking crypto wallets, but wallets, which then actually will take over the role that cookies have today.
Oh.
So cookies are dead, you know that. I mean, it's harder to track actually customers and their behavior, especially cross websites. And this is one of the topics we in the travel industry where average customers like book one, twice, maybe twice a year, but you don't know what he is doing on other websites, and you don't know his other behaviors. It's getting harder and harder to profile them, and we are spending a lot of money into that, right? And so wallets will be quite big in the future as well. I mean, there are even, if you look at Google Wallet, was renamed from Google Pay to Google Wallet. Apple Wallet is already there. So once they start actually using NFTs, digital currencies, and all the things, we will see mass adoption as well of blockchain technology, because most of that is based on that. What a lot of people don't know is also that actually we are not only talking blockchain and crypto, but blockchain and digital assets, also digital currencies. There are more than 120 different countries now working on digital currencies. This is central bank-owned digital currencies. Here in Europe, for instance, most probably by 2030 it will be introduced. So our customers will be running around with digital currencies. Same happens with digital identities. So the EU, for instance, has a program that by 2030 again, 80% of the customers will have a digital ID wallet, which will compromise our passport data, our driving license, our insurances, and so on and so on. If you think only these two components, how it will change the way we book and the way we interact with customers, it's amazing, because basically, and this is not a slide from us, this is a slide from the European Union, how they envision it in their government body. So basically, customer will have on his device, and most of the devices, be it laptop or mobile phones, have already like private enclaves on it, where this data will be stored in a secure way. They will interact with websites and apps. Those websites, if the customer consents to it, will be able to read the wallet. Simple example here, Happy Air, you are a gold member. So the whole topic of personalization suddenly can become really, really crucial. And also we are going to transfer your personal data, not by filling out forms, but with one click.
So it becomes more of a core or a fundamental part of how you track customers, and not, it's not really about tracking your inventory, but more around the partner or the actual customer, so you can offer personalized products. And,
Exactly. In the airline industry, for instance, we have been talking about NDCs in more than 15 years. So the personalization part of the new distribution capabilities, and we never cracked that because there are so many hurdles, and actually we do not personalize, we do not have the traveler profiles solved. With this approach, where customers will have wallets, where you have your personal identity in there, your personal marketing preferences as well, and if the customer is willing to share that, and most of the customers are because they get something in return, like personalization or some benefits, then we definitely will have a tool for personalization in that perspective. But that also means that all our front ends and systems must be able to cope with that. And the majority of the systems are not able to do that today.
Right, and that was going to be my next question: is how, if say Happy Air has this wallet, how is that information being shared with other suppliers or even like tour operators, or how does that work in the ecosystem?
So the idea is actually that we store this data on-chain in a distributed manner, that on permission-based, different suppliers can access that. So for instance, we also work with airports and airlines. They're super interested in having one data, which is always updated, to have access it and stored in one way. GDPR compliant, of course, but it's about having access to the latest update, actually. This is what blockchain is. It always updates the data and makes it verifiable and makes it accessible to everybody who needs access.
So you were saying that the cost that you were looking at in the Camino Network is around 1 cent per transaction?
Yes, and the transaction, I mean, this is also one of the topics why we settle for blockchain. Transaction can be anything. It can be a booking for the Balinese daybed, it can be a hotel room night, it can be a flight booking, it can be a cruise, it can be a package. Technically speaking, on blockchain, a transaction looks always the same. So this also solves a little bit the problem we have in the travel industry, that we have a lot of different technology per vertical, and we have these frictions between all these different verticals. Since I started in the travel industry 23 years back, we were talking about seamless travel, connected trips, and it always fails because there's so much system frictions, right?
Yeah.
And our thinking was, okay, instead of always innovating within a company or innovating within a vertical, why not provide the worldwide travel industry an open source platform where they can build on top of that on the same data standards, on the same technology, and you can actually cover most of the use cases we have in travel with that.
Gotcha. So where are you on the journey to build out the network now? How far have you guys gotten with this? So
what we did is we started building the blockchain last year. In April this year, we launched the blockchain. So we are live actually in a so-called restricted mainnet mode. So means with 20 validators. So 20 different travel companies are now helping us to test and further develop the blockchain. And in June, we are going to open it up for the other 150 partners we have already. 2/3 of those partners will run an own server. And maybe talking about partners, these are some of the brands that work with us. So we work with tour operators like TUI, Der Touristik, Hotelplan. We work with DMCs like Afra, MTS. We have hotel chains. We also are in talks with mileage programs like Miles & More. And you can see as well a lot of other travel companies like airports, Fraport, who has 31 different airports, and service providers like Chatta, A3M, and so on. So our aim was actually to have a representation of the travel industry. Some verticals we have not yet even touched, like the cruise industry, or some very specific, like tours and activities, but that's coming now step by step.
So how would you suggest somebody trying to get more involvement or add to the network?
Yeah.
What's the process?
So we work as well with a lot of associations like IATA, with the Australian Hotellery, more or less the HETNA from Australia, with airline corporations as well. So basically to work on data standards and get a little bit the word out that there is a blockchain that has exactly this thing in mind, that the travel companies work together to actually solve a lot of the issues we have in our industry. And there are 3 ways to cooperate with us. So first of all, you can always book a deep dive session with us, so that's completely for free. You can become a supporter. Supporter means you're listed, you get information, you're invited to online sessions, you're invited to real-life sessions. We are holding an event in October in Mallorca this year again, and basically you get updated and have the chance to actually investigate a little bit what blockchain technology is about and what kind of use cases we can do. The second one, you can start building. We have, it's open source, so everything is there. You can straight away, either yourself, your IT department, or we can connect you to partner in our network, which basically can help you to build use cases on the thing, on Camino itself. We as Chain for Travel, we are not building any software on top of that. We are focusing on the infrastructure itself. It's like the new internet. It's empty currently, and more websites and apps are now built on top of that. And the third one is, of course, you can become a validator. As validator, you're part of the government body of that blockchain, because we as Chain for Travel, we are the facilitator, but we do not own the Chain for Travel. There's actually not a single owner. It's a consortium which owns the blockchain and actually steers the further development of the blockchain. They vote through on-chain voting on different topics. And we have set up a foundation in Switzerland, so that's the Camino Network Foundation, which actually has the IP rights and also the treasury in order to avoid that somebody can buy this idea.
So blockchain is the technology or the basis that Camino Network is built on, and this network's up and running.
It's up and running.
You've got suppliers and distributors already using it.
We are now starting, actually. I mean, the booking part, if you look at the use cases currently used, I mean, we have startups working on trading. Means, again, what I mentioned before, that you can create the booking, and that booking can be transferred on a secondary marketplace to another customer, for instance. Pinktada, LifeAwards.ai are some examples doing that already. The flight industry, we have TravelX doing that with flight bookings. In our network, we have like 3 tour operators thinking about, okay, I would like to give this kind of chance to my customers, and we call that tradable rates. So classically speaking, we have like 2 opposites. We have like non-refundable rates and we have refundable rates. And since Corona, a lot of customers have this kind of, okay, I would like to have a little bit of flexibility. So we see now a rise of tradable rates where companies say, okay, you can actually transfer the booking, and from each transfer of booking, you get a commission cut without having to do none.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many suppliers are going to like that, but.
No, there are actually two opposite positions there. People will say, okay, I like it because I have nothing to do and actually I earn money. And others are like, yeah, but they could undercut my pricing scheme and so on and so on. So there are different kind of companies, either pro or different, but that's only one use case you can do. Other use cases go into payment, which is pretty much low-hanging fruit. I mean, yesterday there was a lot of talks about payment costs. In our industry, we have 24 billion of chargebacks and fraud per year. We have 3% average payment costs. This blockchain technology, actually most of that goes away. What's also nice about blockchain technology is the moment you do a transaction, you receive as well the money. So it's not 2 separate workflows, like one is booking, one is payment. The money is transferred instantly or depending what you define in the smart contract. There are some other use cases I could elaborate, but I would love more to get some questions.
Yeah. Anything else before we open it up to questions?
Maybe looking into the future, so what we are building now, coming back to your question about the API, so we have built the Web3 infrastructure now for the travel industry. Companies are now building smart contracts and applications on top of that. There's a wallet. Wallet, as I mentioned several times, will become more and more important in the future. You can also connect different wallets to the Camino network. That's also working. And what we are now building on top of this infrastructure is actually a messaging system, which is encrypted and works from wallet to wallet. So using this peer-to-peer network we have built to transfer actually requests, which will contain as well some personal information and profile information from the wallets to the supplier and to do today's interfaces. And
that's to get that personalized experience to make an offer or that's related to that particular traveler. Let's see. All right, any questions for Pablo? No questions? So the question is that we think that we all know what a blockchain can do, but what problem are we trying to solve here? Who's the buyer and who's the seller?
I mean, It can be B2B, it can be B2C, it can be B2C to B. You can buy stuff back. So that's also a possible use case, which you couldn't do before that. And so it's really versatile at the end. And I mean, I think what's more important about not only looking at the current problems we have, which you can also have some financial data behind that, like the payment costs I just mentioned, like the investments. I mean, we are, as an industry, are investing 14 billion a year into travel tech, globally speaking. Here you have an open source solution. You need internal resources, yes, but there's no license fees attached to that. So there's no additional cost, except, of course, the cost of the transaction, which you can steer as validator. And I think it's also preparing ourselves for the future. I mean, Corona has accentuated a lot of these problems we had, right? I mean, during Corona, we lost a few good people as well in the travel industry, in the IT departments, so they got depleted. We have a huge backlog of systems, and more actually it gets a world of API, which is very, very complex to handle. In my former job, we had like 930 different pieces of software and 150 different kind of APIs to maintain. That's a lot of things to maintain.
Yeah, and I think that ties into the question that just came in is, what's the hotel investment to support blockchain?
I don't quite get the question, but what's meaning investment?
So there's a cost of entry,
Yep.
right? You have to develop to the API. Then there's the fee charges, and I think there was a question to say, well, it's per blockchain transaction, so that's when a product or when a request to the
request is out there. It's really when you do something interact with the blockchain, so like creating a booking, minting an NFT, creating a collectible, that's the transaction itself.
Right, so you could have dozens of transactions wrapped around one purchase.
Yes.
But at 1 penny per transaction, it costs you 12 cents.
Yeah.
So that's just some of the costs around it. But then the initial development, it's all open standards. So it's really just the cost to integrate to the...
Yes, I mean, there's always some cost associated to it, and what we are inviting actually the travel industry now is to start investigating if this technology can solve some problems. At the end of the day, technology must solve problems, else it will not be successful.
Right. And I think it's important to note the blockchain is not going to be for like rates and availability. It'll be at the purchase time or at the personalization time or the call for...
That's why we are building the messaging system on top of that, because blockchain, I mean, today Hotelbeds mentioned they have like 4 billion daily requests. That's not the data amount going into the blockchain. So the blockchain has a lot of strengths, but definitely not high data volumes to store that. And I mean, also when it comes to the next question, when it comes to protection of personal data, blockchain technology is, you cannot delete stuff from blockchain. So we always advise do not put personal data in a way on the blockchain that you can read that, human readable, so you can encrypt it, you can hash it, that's all good. And also what we want to do is actually to start asking the right questions. One example, for instance, if you do a car booking, you always have to provide as a customer your birth date. So who of you has received from a car rental company flowers for your birthday? Most probably never. The only thing they want to know is, are you older than 21 years or 25 years old, depending on the car category you're booking. That you can do with zero-proof knowledge, it's called, basically saying, yes, just transmitting a flag, and in this way you are not disclosing any personal data.
Let's see, the next question, how can hotels manage receivables to operate day-to-day needs?
So receivables are payments?
Payments.
Payments you can either go instantly, you can actually ask for payment directly, you can create smart contracts where you can have payment schemes up to your liking. Smart contracts, by the way, are programs running on the blockchain. They're neither smart, neither are they actually contracts, they're just called like that. And basically what it does, it's triggered. So you set a trigger and then it's paid. A lot of tour operators, for instance, are looking into paying airlines only if the airline really takes off. So in order to avoid actually that you pay something and you don't get the money back, or you have lengthy discussion about who's made things. So we can actually also redesign the whole payment flows in our industry.
are you seeing, what type of, I guess, return on investment, or what type of uplift are there for suppliers to participate?
On the one hand side, I think technology savings, process cost savings definitely as well. You need to invest in skills and new kind of technology. Yes, that's true, but the entry barrier is very, very low. And I would also say today a lot of hoteliers are not digitalizing all the assets they actually have, right? So also other companies are not digitalizing everything because our internal systems or distribution channels are not allowing to do so. In blockchain environments, you can tokenize anything. And it's about thinking, okay, what do I want to tokenize and sell and make it tradable or make it bookable for customers? So you can do a lot of upselling. Can do cross-selling as well by using different kinds of smart contracts, so more automatization. And I think you can do much more on the collaboration side in the whole industry working together. We have, for instance, insurance companies now working with airlines basically to say, okay, my customer is at the airport, we know that, the airline knows that. The airline knows that the flight is delayed by 3 hours, and basically what then happens is, according to European law, the airline must refund the customer to a certain amount. And this is all a full automated process now with this kind of airline industry. Today, actually, Delta Airlines announced that they have a collaboration with Expedia, that in case the flight of a Delta passenger gets delayed or changed, that the Expedia booking is automatically updated, and this is also done using blockchain technology.
Very good. I think we're out of time, so I appreciate it. Thank you so much for being here and sharing this with us.
And if you have any questions, you will find me near the bar this evening, so just approach me.
All right. All right. Thank you.